ladies and gentlemen. The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am not asking your newspapers to support an administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. For I have complete confidence in the response and dedication of our citizens whenever they are fully informed. I not only could not stifle controversy among your readers, I welcome it. This administration intends to be candid about its errors. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it. We intend to accept full responsibility for our errors, and we expect you to point them out when we miss them. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. And that is why our press was protected by the First Amendment, the only business in America specifically protected by the Constitution, not primarily to amuse and entertain, not to emphasize the trivial and the sentimental, not to simply give the public what it wants, but to inform, to arouse, to reflect, to state our dangers and our opportunities, to indicate our crises and our choices, to lead, mold, educate, and sometimes even anger public opinion. This means greater coverage and analysis of international news, for it is no longer far away and foreign, but close at hand and local. It means greater attention to improved understanding of the news, as well as improved transmission. And it means, finally, that government at all levels must meet its obligation to provide you with the fullest possible information outside the narrowest limits of national security. And so it is to the printing press, to the recorder of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience, the courier of his news, that we look for strength and assistance, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
In 1999, when the United States government ceased to exist, and 2000, when I filed in before the federal government vacated its position in Washington, D.C., vacating the Constitution, the presidents, the president at the time, and presidents subsequently, Washington, D.C. was taken over by such a force.
Out of these troubled times, our fifth objective, a new world order, can emerge, a new era, freer from the threat of terror, stronger in the pursuit of justice, and more secure in the quest for peace. An era in which the nations of the world, East and West, North and South, can prosper and live in harmony. 100 generations have searched for this elusive path to peace, while 1,000 wars raged across the span of human endeavor. And today that new world is struggling to be born. A world quite different from the one we've known. A world where the rule of law supplants the rule of the jungle. A world in which nations recognize the shared responsibility for freedom and justice. A world where the strong respect the rights of the weak. We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders. What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order, where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind: peace and security, freedom, and the rule of law. Such is a world worthy of our struggle and worthy of our children's future. Now we can see a new world coming into view. A world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order. In the words of Winston Churchill, a world order in which the principles of justice and fair play protect the weak against the strong. A world where the United Nations, freed from Cold War stalemate, is poised to fulfill the historic vision of its founders.
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order.
A world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order.
It's about the future of Europe and a new world order.
After 1989, President Bush said, and it's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
And the hope that each of us has to build a new world order.
The pieces are in flux. Soon they will settle again. Before they do, let us reorder this world around us.
So that the problem of the Bush presidency will be the emergence of a new international order.
Within the next 4 years, we will see the emergence of a new international order.
The beginning of a new international order. I think his task will be to develop an overall strategy for America in this period when really a new world order can be created. It's a great opportunity. It isn't just a crisis.
That this crisis, in the way that has developed, will require some kind of world governance.
Good evening, everybody. President Obama and British Prime Minister Gordon today calling for a new world order to tackle our global economic crisis.
And the President outlined his vision of a new world order in which the U.S. would participate fully.
We've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
So I see a world order in the future with a multipolar world order.
I think a new world order is emerging, and with it the foundations of a new and progressive era of international cooperation. We have resolved that from today we will together manage the process of globalization to secure responsibility from all and fairness to all.
And one of the ways it will drive the change is through global governance and global agreements.
But in a globalized economy, we are going to have to take global responsibilities, and there is going to have to be some semblance of global governance.
Never before has a new world order had to be assembled from so many different perceptions or on so global a scale. Nor has any previous order had to combine the attributes of the historic balance of power system with global democratic opinion and the exploding technology of the contemporary period.
There also exists an extraordinary opportunity to form for the first time in history a truly global society.
Well, during the conflict with Saddam Hussein, which he handled so superbly in a short-term sense, but he kept talking about a new world order. And then President Bush, at the end of that war, promised he would give 4 graduation addresses, 4 commencement addresses, describing that new world order and what America's role was going to be in it. Turned out he gave one of those addresses and canceled the other 3 and talked about something else. That's because they weren't ready yet.
That in fact we're all going to have to give up a little bit of our sovereignty in order to make the world work.
And this present window of opportunity during which a truly peaceful and interdependent world order might be built will not be here for too long. Already there are powerful forces at work that threaten to destroy all of our hopes and efforts to erect an enduring structure of global cooperation.
Are you optimistic a global system can happen from what we've heard so far?
It could happen, and in fact it's in the works.
I mean, but sir, just one thing, we could go on about how, your family committed all these acts against society, but we just want to let you know the New World Order has no legitimacy, and that we as a people are not afraid, and we are waking up to the robber barons and the big banksters who are looting this economy with the Federal Reserve.
Well, and for the international order that we have worked for generations to build. Ordinary men and women are too small-minded to govern their own affairs. Ordinary men and women are too small-minded to govern their own affairs. That order and progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign. That order and progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign.
Of deep state people, they call them the deep state. Call it what you will.
Now is the time.
Now the other thing is, we're here also to discuss again the deep state that people are calling it, or other people call it the Illuminati. The cabal. There's many different labels for this. But what do you think we're dealing with?
I've learned most of what I know about the deep state and the shadow government since I left CIA. Most of the people at CIA are good people trapped in a bad system. I distinguish between the deep state, which is the Vatican, the Rothschilds, and the Chabad Jews, and you will talk about what's above them. And then they use the Freemasons and the Knights of Malta as fixers, and they use the City of London, Wall Street, central banks as managers. That's the deep state. Below the deep state is the shadow government, which is comprised of the politicians and senior bureaucrats, many of the murderous pedophiles that have been brought into the pedophilia system as a control blackmail element. Those are the shadow government people, but they're not the deep state. They're the best of the servant class. What I have found in the United States is that the Mossad perfected the art of blackmailing people. They've also perfected the art of industrial electronic espionage. Everybody snoops, but the Israelis actually are running the electronic systems for the U.S. government. But what I have found in the United States is that all of our politicians are groomed. With the exception of Donald Trump, you don't get to be president unless you're bought and paid for. Now, I've also learned that CIA, FBI, and NSA have been spying on and blackmailing all of our politicians. So the one element of the deep state I didn't mention before was the secret intelligence community. Those are the people who are smuggling guns, gold, drugs, cash, and small children as part of the totality of the deep state shadow government enterprise.
Fortunately, most of the people in the U.S. military, in the agencies, and the people, you know, the servants with guns are actually good people, and they were being manipulated. And they made a fatal mistake, for example, by sending them into Iraq saying they're going after weapons of mass destruction. And when they found out they'd been lied to and it was just a huge oil robbery, they started waking up. And now the good guys, the white hats in the military and the agencies around the world are getting rid of these murderous scum.
That I absolutely believe you are right when you say that 90% of the people in the military are good people. In fact, I was recently offered a significant sum of money to help put veterans into every single political race in America in 2018, and I plan to do that. Veterans understand that war is for bankers, war is waste, and we should not be going to war in America. We need to close all 1,000 of our bases overseas and bring our troops home. Let me emphasize that one of the things that really destroyed our limited success in Iraq was the idiocy, the deliberate idiocy of Dick Cheney in ordering Paul Bremer to dismantle the Iraqi military. That was the single greatest mistake, but it wasn't a mistake. That's what he wanted. He wanted chaos.
Washington, D.C. was taken over by such a force of deep state people. They call them the deep state, call it what you will, of people that couldn't be honest. I did what I could to stop and correct in compliance with Title 42, 1986, knowledge of the law and stopping and correcting of a wrong. There were many wrongs, from timelines to grammar to judicial systems to military constructs to postal constructs and to banking constructs. During the last year, as I witnessed the change of dialogue coming out of Washington, D.C.
And above all else, we know this: America doesn't worship government, we worship God. All of us here tonight are united by the same values. We love our country, and we are proud of our history. We are so proud of this country. We honor our heritage, and we treasure our freedom. We believe that every American should stand for the national anthem. And we proudly pledge allegiance to one nation under God. Our rights come from our Creator, and no earthly force can ever take those rights away, and they never will. That is why my administration is taking power back from global bureaucrats and returning that power back to the American people. And you see it all the time. You see it economically, you see it at the church, you see it in every different way. We don't sing a global anthem. Our troops don't wear a foreign uniform. And we will never surrender our rights to international tribunals. We won't do that. We proudly sing the Star-Spangled Banner. Our brave troops fight and die for the red, white, and blue, and we protect and preserve the American Constitution that we cherish. I've said it so often that my job is not to be president of the world. My job is to be president of the United States of America. Yet there are powerful forces in Washington trying to sabotage our movement. These are bad people. These are very, very bad and evil people. They know who they are. These are the people who made their money, their names, their careers, their power off the corrupt and broken system, and they liked it the other way. So they will do anything at any time, and they'll never stop. But you know what? We're stopping them. You're seeing that right now. You're seeing that right now. We're stopping them. It's corrupt, it's rigged, and we're stopping them. They will lie and leak and smear because they don't want to accept the results. What they're doing is the fake news. It's called suppression. Just like they give the fake polls. I call it fake news, fake polls. But remember this, the same failed voices in Washington who opposed our movement right from the beginning are the same people who have undermined the credibility of our government institutions. They're the same ones who gave us one terrible trade deal after another and one foreign policy blunder and disaster after another with no accountability and no apology. The Washington insiders who oppose our movement are the same people who sacrificed our sovereignty, our wealth, our borders. Look at our country. We owe $20 trillion. Think of it. We have spent, as of 2 months ago, almost $7 trillion in the Middle East. And you know what we have? We have nothing. It's worse than it was 17 years ago when they started. These are the people that fight us. And if I want to fix up the roads in this country, they say, oh, well, we don't want to spend money for that. It's a tiny fraction. We could have, with that $7 trillion, not billion, $7 trillion, we could have rebuilt our country 3 times over. They've had their chance at running this country and they failed. So I think I speak for everyone here tonight. I say these words tonight. Together, we will indeed make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America safe again. And put it all together, and what do we have? We will make America great again. Thank you. God bless you. God bless America. Thank you, everybody.
During the last year, as I witnessed the change of dialogue coming out of Washington, D.C., I felt it necessary for me to show up again and give closure just on who I am and what power and authority I am on this planet. During the last 18 years, the one entity that continually kept harming and hurting the citizens of this country was the Federal Reserve. And there was a gentleman running around D.C. speaking very loquacious, saying, "Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas." Well, as you do that, Merry, because you're not using a hyphen between them, becomes an adjective. Adjectives are someone's opinion of subjective interpretation. Christmas becomes a pronoun of no fact. And so, in compliance with Title 42, 1986, knowledge of the law and stopping and correcting, this was a fictitious grammar violation in violation of Title 18, 1001. But because it came through my television, it tripped off an electronic fraud in violation of Title 18, 1343. So as Chief Judge of the United States, it was my job and my duty to stop and correct. So on December 18th of 2017, I gave 3-day closure, otherwise known as rescission, to the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve that I was coming down to talk to them about matters on a contract. I did 3-day mailing, 3-day rescission, and I showed up on the winter solstice with witnesses of what I was doing. And I was going to the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve to talk to them about the grammar that they were conveying on contract. And I did that, and when I showed up there and used my Keymaster mechanics, because I showed up on the winter solstice, and the gates are open for me, and the portholes are open for me on the solstice because things align. Mainly because of what I've done at the Vatican, but also because of what I've done as Keymaster of the Vatican, but also what I've done as Postmaster General and Sovereign in the District of Columbia. So as I showed up there on the solstice, the ignorance of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve and the guards there, they have their own private guards because they're not part of the United States. It doesn't say United States Federal Reserve. It simply says Federal Reserve. And so because I witnessed such ignorance on their part as I was brokering myself into their vessel that was docked on my land, I came across the timelines of Merry-Christmas, of 3-day rescission after that, 3-day notice. So I showed up on the 21st. They blocked me and the vessels that I had boarded to join the contract as cargo. They blocked us from the entry at the Federal Reserve. So I waited 3 days, the 22nd, the 23rd, and the 24th. And after a 3-day blockage period, where the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve blocked me from boarding the vessel as Postmaster General, I then hit and filed on Christmas Day, Merry-Christmas. And the Merry-Christmas is that the Board of Governors for the Federal Reserve was no longer in time. With 1 foot on the land and 1 foot on the sea, time was no more in that vessel. Contract coming out of that vessel would be no more. And a birthday party would ensue under 3-day mailing, 3-day rescission on January 3rd, 2003 there. When I showed up on January 3rd, 2003 with my family for a birthday party because they had vacated their capacity to navigate contract out of there as of Christmas Day, 2017. There were to be no more contracts coming out of the Federal Reserve because of the fraudulent grammar and the violation of blocking me as Postmaster General to board the vessel for inspection to see what was going on in the vessel. Why was their vessel docked on my land as Postmaster General? And as we went there for the birthday party, we were blocked again. A fine was levied against the Board of Governors for the Federal Reserve. I am now the Director Chair for the Federal Reserve System within that vessel by contract. A mirrored banking system of correct communication, parsing, syntax, grammar, language to give closure and aid the government and the citizens of this country as a Federal Reserve System. There are no longer any Postmaster Generals in that vessel but myself, as well as the fine of over 17 trillion tons of gold, million tons of gold, I apologize, million tons of gold that is owed by those people that are docking that vessel on my land. It is owed to me which I will give back and leverage for the citizens and government of this country as a federal serve system. And it's a Merry Christmas. And I owe it all to Mr. Donald John Trump. Thank you for the thanks.